Hello guys, and welcome to the White Rabbit Trading Channel. Before we begin, please take a moment to read the disclaimer below. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor and everything here is for educational purposes only. Alright, let's dive in for a quick update. On the weekly time frame, we can see that if Bitcoin closes in its current position, it would form a weekly SFP, where the price has taken out the previous 2 weeks' lows. This development makes the current low extremely important because it can lead to significant structure changes on lower time frames. Of course, if we see a push downward from here, that's one possibility, but if you're bullish, you don't want to see weekly closes below this low, as that would open the door to deeper downside scenarios. We'll address those if they become relevant, but for now, the priority is to watch how the weekly candle closes today. Let's move on to the lower time frames to get a clearer picture. At the moment, there's a bullish structure on both the 1-hour and 4-hour charts, which propelled Bitcoin to a key daily level. To simplify, this daily level must be broken for us to confirm a proper structure break. Currently, it still looks like a lower high, so we haven't fully confirmed further upside just yet. For continuation upward, we need to zoom in on lower time frames to see what conditions need to be met for the price to hold its current level as support. Equally, we must recognize what would indicate a rejection, opening the door for lower levels if this level turns out to be a potential lower high instead. Focusing on the lower time frames, we have a few important levels to watch. First, there's a 12-hour volume block that I'd like to see hold if Bitcoin continues to rise. Of course, it could just get tapped, possibly forming a local SFP of the previous day's low. That's a different kind of setup, but it's still on the table. Ideally, if price revisits this 12-hour zone, I want to see bullish price action on the 1-hour chart. That typically means looking for local structure shifts or a reclaim of key support/resistance levels. In a more aggressive scenario, it's acceptable to see a liquidity sweep on lower levels, but I'll keep in mind that if the market fails to reclaim the upper level afterward, that area might act as resistance. That leads us to the next scenario: what if this 12-hour block doesn't hold? In that case, the bears will want to see convincing closes below this level, which would naturally lead us to the next support zone. Once that break happens, we'd likely consider the level we just lost to be potential new resistance. This situation could see Bitcoin rejected at that same zone, heading even lower if the market can't reclaim it. If we stay below it and fail to invalidate the bearish structure, we'll look for new setups aligned with the downside momentum. Now, let's briefly touch on the daily statistics for today. The average gain level lies above the previous day's high, which could serve as resistance. It lines up with a few other key levels, making it a point of confluence. On the flip side, the average loss, around -1.50%, sits within that 12-hour point of interest, where several levels converge. If price trades into that zone, I'll watch the lower timeframes closely to see if any meaningful reaction or setup emerges. In the end, I also wanted to mention the monthly statistics. As we see, on average, highs and lows are formed around day 12. There were cases where the lows were formed on the first day, and we've also seen them form later in the month. The highs tend to be formed around day 8 or, on average, day 12. What I wanted to point out is that as we move into next week, we need to see how things develop and whether Bitcoin hits the time and key levels. Of course, there are always several scenarios, but the simplest way to approach it is to watch whether Bitcoin manages to break structure on the daily time frame. If no structure break happens, it could indicate that a potential high has been formed and that the monthly low still needs to be printed. However, if structure holds and even the daily structure breaks bullish, then even a drop could just form another higher low. In that case, it would mean that the low from the first day of the month was, once again, the monthly low. These are a few things I keep in mind in confluence with the monthly statistics. That's it for Bitcoin for now. However, I also want to briefly mention Ethereum and Solana, as both display similar price action at the moment. Ethereum is currently at a resistance level, forming a setup that parallels Bitcoin's. If the bulls plan to drive ETH higher, it should happen from this region, aiming for a new high that taps the upper portion of the order block. If ETH reclaims that zone, the next target would be a higher breaker block. However, if there's a rejection either from the current resistance or from that upper portion of the order block, I'd then look to see if ETH can hold the next lower support. If that breaks, we gain a bearish bias for subsequent setups, which, of course, can lead to just another higher low, but it needs to be watched to see if a potential setup forms. Solana is in a comparable situation, currently sitting at an older breaker block resistance. If SOL wants to push to higher levels, it likely needs to do so from either the current level or a 12-hour point of interest just below. If that area fails and SOL loses the level, I'll shift focus to the next support zone. This breakdown could then lead to a variety of new scenarios, potentially a short setup if the bearish structure takes hold, or a reclaim and rally scenario if it bounces back up. In summary, there are a few critical themes to watch. Weekly time frame, a potential SFP is forming if Bitcoin closes this way, making the current low pivotal. Lower time frames, the 1 hour and 4 hour are bullish, but we need to confirm if the daily level breaks. 12-hour volume block, this is the key area for bulls to defend if we expect further upside. Scenario planning, watch for a reclaim and bullish continuation versus a breakdown and potential retest as resistance. Ethereum and Solana follow similar logic, either they push up from these current levels or we see a rejection that sends them to lower support, possibly sparking new setups. As always, we'll need to stay flexible. If new data emerges, the plan can adapt accordingly. I'll keep monitoring these scenarios and share any updates or new setups that align with the evolving market structure. That's it for today's update. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll keep you updated as the market develops. Until then, trade safe, and I'll see you in the next one.